Welcome, dear seeker. Please take a moment to settle yourself, soften your breath, relax your shoulders, and allow your attention to arrive fully here. The fact that you are listening to this suggests something meaningful, a wish to understand love more deeply, to reduce conflict, or perhaps to heal an area of relationship that feels heavy or confusing. Whatever brought you here, know that this space is meant to be gentle, reflective, and practical. Relationships are among the most powerful experiences in human life. They can be sources of great joy, connection, and growth, yet they can also bring pain, misunderstanding, attachment, and suffering. The Buddha did not ignore this reality. Instead, he offered timeless guidance on how human beings can relate to one another with wisdom, compassion, and balance, without losing themselves in craving, fear, or resentment. Today's reflection is not about rigid rules or moral pressure. Rather, it is an invitation to look honestly at how relationships work, how expectations arise, how emotions move through the mind, and how mindful awareness can transform the way we love. The Buddha's teachings were always practical, aimed at reducing suffering and increasing clarity, both for oneself and for others. In this video, we will walk together through 6 carefully chosen teachings that apply directly to relationships, romantic partnerships, family bonds, friendships, and even the relationship you have with yourself. Each section is designed to be simple yet deep, offering insight you can reflect on and practices you can gently apply in daily life. Please listen not as a critic, but as a kind observer of your own heart. Take what feels useful, leave what does not, and allow these teachings to meet you where you are. With that intention, let us begin. Seeing clearly, suffering, expectations, and the roots of conflict. Before we try to fix a relationship, the Buddha gently asks us to see clearly. Not to judge, not to blame, but to understand. According to the teaching of Gautama Buddha, suffering in relationships does not arise by accident. It has causes, and when those causes are understood, suffering can be reduced. Much of relational pain begins with expectation. We expect others to behave in certain ways, to meet our emotional needs, to heal our loneliness, or to act according to our inner picture of who they should be. When reality does not match this picture, disappointment arises. When disappointment is repeated and unexamined, it hardens into resentment. The Buddha described this pattern as clinging, holding tightly to ideas, roles, and outcomes. We cling to being understood, to being appreciated, to being loved in a particular form. Yet the more tightly we cling, the more fragile the relationship becomes. This is not because love is wrong, but because unexamined attachment creates pressure on ourselves and on others. At this stage, the teaching invites a quiet inquiry. Instead of asking, "Why are they hurting me?" we are encouraged to ask, "What am I holding on to right now?" This shift is powerful. It turns the light inward without self-blame, and it opens the door to wisdom. A simple reflection you may try is this: when conflict arises, pause and name the hidden expectation beneath it. Perhaps it is the expectation to be prioritized, to be agreed with, or to be emotionally rescued. Merely seeing it clearly often softens its grip. Understanding suffering is not pessimistic, it is compassionate. When we see the roots of conflict clearly, we take the first step toward relationships grounded not in demand, but in awareness and freedom. Presence and mindfulness, the foundation of true intimacy. Once we begin to see relationships clearly, the Buddha then invites us to be fully present within them. According to Gautama Buddha, the quality of our attention determines the quality of our experience. In relationships, this truth becomes especially clear. Many conflicts do not arise because of what is said or done, but because we are only half present when we are together. Mindfulness means to be aware of what is happening here and now, without judgment. In relationships, this translates into listening without rehearsing a reply, looking without distraction, and feeling emotions without immediately reacting to them. When mindfulness is absent, the mind drifts into past wounds or future fears, and the person in front of us becomes secondary to our inner commentary. True intimacy begins when another person feels seen. Presence communicates safety. It says, without words, "You matter. I am here with you." Even brief moments of full attention can dissolve tension more effectively than long explanations or arguments. The Buddha taught mindfulness as a practice of returning, again and again, to the breath, the body, and direct experience. In daily relationships, this might mean pausing before responding, noticing the tightening in the chest during disagreement, or recognizing when irritation is rising before it spills into speech. A simple practice you may try is mindful listening. When someone speaks to you, gently bring your attention to their words, their tone, and your own breathing. If the mind wanders, notice it kindly and return. No correction is needed, only awareness. As the Zen teacher Thich Nhat Hanh often emphasized, loving someone means offering them your presence. When mindfulness enters a relationship, understanding deepens naturally, and love becomes less reactive and more real. Loving kindness and compassion, training the heart to love wisely. Having learned to see clearly and to be present, the Buddha then guides us toward transforming the heart itself. In relationships, clarity and presence are essential, but without kindness, they can feel dry or incomplete. This is where the practices of loving kindness, metta, and compassion, karuna, become central. The Buddha taught that love is not merely an emotion that arises when conditions are pleasant. It is a quality that can be cultivated through intention and practice. Loving kindness is the sincere wish for well-being, for yourself and for others, without demanding anything in return. Compassion is the natural response of the heart when it meets suffering, whether it is your own or another's. In relationships, these qualities soften reactivity. When loving kindness is present, irritation is less likely to harden into cruelty. When compassion is present, we begin to see that hurtful behavior often arises from pain, fear, or confusion rather than malice. This understanding does not excuse harm, but it prevents hatred from taking root. A simple and powerful practice is the metta meditation. Begin by offering kind wishes to yourself. May I be safe. May I be peaceful. May I be free from suffering. Then, gently extend these wishes to someone you love. Over time, you may include neutral people, and even those with whom you experience difficulty. This gradual expansion trains the heart to remain open under pressure. The Zen teacher Thich Nhat Hanh often reminded practitioners that understanding is a form of love. When we understand another's suffering, compassion arises naturally. Importantly, loving kindness does not mean self-neglect. Including yourself in these wishes is essential. A heart that is harsh toward itself will eventually struggle to be gentle with others. As loving kindness and compassion mature, relationships become less about control and more about care. Love then becomes a steady presence, not dependent on mood, but grounded in wisdom and goodwill. Skillful speech, speaking truth with kindness and care. As relationships deepen, words become powerful. They can heal, clarify, and connect, or they can wound, divide, and linger painfully in the heart. For this reason, the Buddha placed great emphasis on right speech, teaching that how we speak is just as important as what we say. According to Gautama Buddha, skillful speech is guided by 4 qualities. It is truthful, kind, beneficial, and timely. When even one of these is missing, communication can easily become a source of suffering. In relationships, many conflicts are not caused by dishonesty, but by truth spoken without care, or care expressed without clarity. Skillful speech begins with awareness. Before speaking, we are invited to pause and gently ask ourselves, is this true? Is it necessary? Is it kind? Is this the right moment? This brief inner check can prevent words from being driven by anger, fear, or the desire to win. The Buddha also understood the importance of intention. When speech arises from the wish to understand and be understood, it carries a different energy than speech born from blame or self-defense. Even difficult conversations can become opportunities for connection when approached with humility and respect. A practical way to embody right speech is through I statements. Rather than accusing. You never listen to me. We speak from direct experience. When I feel unheard, I become anxious and withdrawn. This invites dialogue rather than defensiveness. Equally important is knowing when not to speak. Silence, when chosen consciously, can protect a relationship from unnecessary harm. The Buddha praised restraint, reminding us that not every thought needs to become a sentence. Skillful speech does not mean avoiding truth. It means delivering truth in a way that reduces suffering rather than increasing it. When words are shaped by mindfulness and compassion, communication becomes a bridge, not a weapon, and relationships gain strength, trust, and resilience. Non-attachment and healthy boundaries. Loving without clinging. As relationships grow closer, the Buddha gently warns us of a subtle danger: attachment. According to Gautama Buddha, attachment is not love itself, but the fear that arises when love becomes entangled with possession, control, or dependency. When we confuse the two, relationships often become heavy, anxious, and painful. Non-attachment does not mean indifference. It does not ask us to withdraw our care or close our hearts. Rather, it invites us to love without gripping, to care without trying to control outcomes or people. In this way, non-attachment actually allows love to breathe. In relationships, attachment often appears as fear: fear of loss, fear of being alone, fear of not being enough. These fears can lead us to demand reassurance, suppress our own needs, or tolerate behavior that causes harm. The Buddha's teaching offers a different path, one rooted in inner stability rather than emotional dependency. Healthy boundaries naturally arise from non-attachment. When we are not clinging, we are better able to say yes with sincerity and no without guilt. Boundaries are not walls, they are expressions of self-respect. They protect both the relationship and the individuals within it. A gentle reflection you may try is this: ask yourself whether a current action or request arises from love or from fear. Fear tightens the body and mind. Love feels spacious, even when firm. Learning to sense this difference is a powerful skill. The Buddha taught that all conditioned things change. When we accept this truth, we stop demanding permanence from what is naturally impermanent. Love then becomes an offering, not a contract. When non-attachment guides a relationship, we remain present even in uncertainty. We allow others to be who they are, while honoring our own well-being. In this balance, relationships become lighter, more honest, and far more resilient. Daily practice: nurturing relationships through consistent care. The Buddha taught that transformation does not happen through occasional insight alone, but through steady, repeated practice. In the same way, relationships are not sustained by grand gestures, but by small, consistent acts of care carried out with awareness. What we practice daily, we become. According to Gautama Buddha, wholesome habits shape the mind and heart. When applied to relationships, this means intentionally creating rhythms that support understanding, connection, and emotional safety. Without such practices, even sincere love can slowly be eroded by distraction, busyness, and neglect. One simple but powerful practice is regular check-in. Setting aside a short, protected time, even 10 or 15 minutes a week, to ask, "How are we doing?" allows unspoken feelings to surface gently, before they turn into resentment. This is not a time for problem-solving alone, but for listening and presence. Another practice is shared mindfulness. This might be as simple as sitting quietly together for a few minutes, breathing, or sharing a short reflection before sleep. When two people pause together, even briefly, nervous systems settle and emotional connection deepens. The Buddha also emphasized intention. Beginning the day by silently wishing well-being for those you love plants seeds that influence how you speak and act later. Ending the day with gratitude, naming one thing you appreciated in the other, strengthens goodwill and reduces fixation on faults. These practices do not need to be perfect. What matters is sincerity and continuity. Miss a day, and simply begin again. The path is gentle. When relationships are treated as a practice rather than a possession, they become places of growth rather than struggle. With patience and care, love matures, not into something dramatic, but into something steady, trustworthy, and deeply nourishing. As we come to the end of this reflection, I invite you to pause for a moment and simply notice how you feel. You have just explored teachings that are not meant to stay as ideas, but to slowly take root in lived experience. The Buddha, Gautama Buddha, never asked his listeners to believe blindly. He encouraged them to observe, to test, and to discover for themselves what reduces suffering and what brings peace. The guidance shared here is not about becoming a perfect partner, friend, or family member. Perfection was never the goal. The path is about becoming more aware, more kind, and more honest step by step. Some days you may respond with patience and clarity. Other days you may fall back into old habits. When that happens, there is no failure, only another opportunity to begin again. Please remember that relationships are living processes. They change, they challenge us, and they reveal parts of ourselves we might not otherwise see. When approached with mindfulness and compassion, even difficulty becomes a teacher. Each misunderstanding points toward deeper awareness. Each moment of kindness strengthens the heart. You are not required to apply everything at once. Choose one small practice, perhaps mindful listening, a loving kindness phrase, or a weekly check-in, and let it settle naturally into your life. The Buddha's path is gentle. It unfolds through consistency, not force. If this reflection has been helpful, you are welcome to stay connected. You may return to these teachings whenever you feel lost, reactive, or uncertain in love. May your relationships be guided by wisdom rather than fear, by compassion rather than control, and by presence rather than habit. Thank you for walking this path, even for a short while. May you be well, may those you love be well, and may your heart continue to open with understanding.